Nikola, večeras navikli ste nas na jako efikasnu igru u klaču posljednjih godina. Večeras su Clippersi bili uspešniji, su nam više problema napravili u odbrani ili u napadu u završnim minutima?
Pa oni su opet dali 105 poena za takvu neku ekipu što imaju takav arsenal ofanzivni. Mislim da smo koliko toliko, eto Kawhi je odigrao stvarno jednu fenomenalnu utakmicu, što jeste, on je stvarno super zvezda. Ali eto, mi nismo uspjeli način i kako je kad smo imali otvorene šute, mi nismo ih uzeli, izgubili smo lopte. Tako je neka bila čudna detalji neki koji nismo uspeli da uradimo neke odluke koje smo svi, pogotovo ja promašen, pa imali smo 4, ja sam promašio 2, Ras promašio 1, Mike promašio 1 bacanje u nekim bitnim momentima. Puno takih nekih detalja koje je naotišlo na njihovu stranu.
Hello everybody and welcome to the first ever DNVR Nuggets Serbian Corner from a Toyota launch. No, this is not a Toyota launch.
No,
I already did it. From Studio of Excellence.
We couldn't give you the Toyota lounge.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair.
Maybe next time.
Are you hosting?
Is there a Serbian car company who could have sponsored this?
Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets Serbian Corner. Pathetic. Okay, so before we begin, please let me remind you to like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the DNVR Nuggets podcast channel and DNVR Sports YouTube channel. If you want to listen to the audio version, it is perfect for your commute or to make your office/home office time more bearable. If you want to support the show more directly, you can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/Miroslav Cuk, just like my Seco tier supporters Peter Plummer and Daniel Lynch. Okay, so guys, the first 2 games are in the books. The Nuggets are 1-1, and I'm going to do a quick recap without these 2 guys. This is how the show works.
Sit out.
So, first on Saturday, the Nuggets started slow and got manhandled by the Clippers, who were scoring in the paint at will. Nikola took a 4-minute breather, but after he returned, everything changed. The Nuggets started disrupting the Clippers' offense and allowed only 75 points in the last 3 quarters and overtime. We got a monster game from Aaron Gordon, some super important shots from Jamal Murray and Christian Brown, a relatively modest, somber double from Jokic, and a no-show from Michael Porter. That is why Coach Adelman decided to close the game with Russell Westbrook, and the Nuggets lived and died with him. He won the game for them at least 3 times and lost it like a couple of times as well. But at the end, a very important offensive rebounds by Aaron, Christian, and Russ, and Westbrook's defensive play at the very end won them the game. Second game last night, just quickly, it started with the energized Nuggets. 8 different guys scored in the first quarter, but Tyronn Lue made the first adjustment in the series. He took Ivica Zubac early in the first quarter so he could play him against the Nuggets bench. But Adelman responded with DJ, and I thought it was a good adjustment, and they survived those non-Jokic minutes in the first quarter. The Clippers caught fire late in the second with some great shot making from James Harden and especially Kawhi Leonard. So they finished the half up 2. Yada yada, you know the drill. What happened? It was an amazing shooting night from Kawhi Leonard, and the Nuggets just fumbled the ending at the very end, and we are going to talk a bit about it. So, because nobody wants to listen to my bad English for a full hour, I have some good guests. Well, one great guest and one friend of mine too. So, first, a writer, a podcaster, a scholar, and a friend. It's Nick Hertzog. What up, Nick?
Scholar. He's looking behind me. Mira, I have a request for you. So when you ask these questions in Serbian and then you do the translations for us, I want you to like have some fun with what Jokic is saying.
Just make up anything.
We have no idea. Yeah. I feel like there's some unmined
You really
gold
think
there.
I didn't already?
Good point.
It's like Jokic's response is, "That's one of the best questions I've ever heard. You must be a smart basketball mind."
Yeah.
We're like, really? He said that.
So the other voice you just heard, it's a definition of nepotism guest. Like he's only here because he's my friend. It's other Mares.
There you go. You kind of phrased that as if you were my dad, but you know what? Whatever. I'll take it.
So I have a quick question for you. Have you watched any basketball recently?
You know the answer to that, of course. Yeah. They had some good hoops, man. Last 3 days have been good.
It's been good. I even watched some non-Nuggets games, which is pretty weird for me. But yeah, there were some really good playoff games already, excluding the one between OKC and Memphis. That was just a bloodbath and like,
Yeah, not good.
yeah, not a good game. So sorry for our guy Legs having to go through that. Okay, so enough with the weird questions. Let's talk some actual Nuggets. So first of all, guys, what do you think was the cause, the main cause of the loss last night? Was it maybe Adelman's late game management? Maybe guys being tired because of short rotation? Maybe just various details happening late in the fourth? Let's start with Nick.
Good. I'm glad I get to go first because I think there's a pretty easy, obvious answer here, which is 15 of 19 from Kawhi. It's really tough to overcome a game like that from the Clippers star. He was a robot, a machine. I don't know that there was a whole lot else they could do, although I think they're going to have to look at just getting really aggressive, doubling him now moving forward, and just trying to keep the ball out of his hands and keep him from getting in there, especially early. I think that's going to be really key because once we can see what happens when he gets in this kind of a rhythm. He is a force. I heard, I think it was on pod you were on earlier today, Legler likened it to like 90s Jordan when he gets rolling with those unstoppable 2-pointers. And I thought, going into the series, swapping tough twos with the Clippers, I thought would benefit the Nuggets. I would have taken that, I think, with Jokic, swapping those kinds of baskets. But I think Jokic has also disappointed a little bit up to his standards, which is crazy because when you look at his numbers, he's averaging 27.5, 11.5, 10.5, something like that so far in 2 games. But it hasn't been enough, and he's been a little bit off, a little bit sloppy, to the point that a phenomenal game from Kawhi was enough to just tilt it in their favor, I think.
But you mentioned Kawhi and his great shot making, but was it just a strike from the sky, or was it something that was also caused by the way the Nuggets played the defense against him?
Kawhi Leonard is a phenomenal basketball player, and I think the Nuggets can learn the wrong lesson. And I've got a lot of this in my mentions today about he'll never shoot that again. And it's possible 15 of 19 he won't. But I actually think he's one of the guys that can go 15 of 19 again. He's good enough. In fact, I think I saw a stat that he's the second player ever to have that volume and efficiency in a playoff game, or the third player to ever have it twice in his career, meaning he's done this once before.
He scored 30 on 80% true shooting or more 3 times already.
All right, 3 times.
Third time.
So the point remains that he is actually capable of doing this. And I think with anybody, like part of this is if you were to imagine if their game plan was to switch every screen against Jokic, and Jokic posted up Norman Powell a bunch, and he went 15 of 19, and they said, "Oh, he'll never do that again." You say, "You switch Norman Powell on him in the post, he'll go 15 of 19." Or
please do that again.
Yeah, and so of course they don't do that. It's easier to not get switched on a post player than it is the perimeter. In today's NBA, it's almost impossible not to give up that switch. But the switch they're going after is Jamal Murray, and I put this on Twitter. He had his first 5 buckets of the game were against Jamal Murray. And they were by design, get the switch, attack, and go. And Jamal Murray, it's not even against him. I thought he does a good job of maintaining his space. Kawhi's way too strong, and he's way too tall. So he pushes him out the way to get to a spot, and then he elevates knowing that there's no contest there. I mean, it's a fake contest. And it's not Jamal Murray's fault. I think Denver knows they can't blitz him all game, and that's why they held on to it till late in the game. But you can't let a player that great get comfortable. He got comfortable right away, and he was never uncomfortable.
So do you agree that Kawhi's great game is the biggest reason for the Nuggets to lose last night?
Well, the first thing, when we talk about biggest reasons for wins and losses, this series has now been 8 quarters and an overtime, and it's separated by 1 point. And the Clippers got up by 15 in the first half and then blew it. They were up by 4. And since that moment, I don't think anybody has led by more than 8 points. And even that 8-point lead, I think it was Denver's, it was for a second, and then immediately it was back down. This series has been within 4 points for basically 6 quarters and an overtime straight. So when we talk about the biggest reason was in some ways variance. Both teams made runs. Denver made mistakes. In game 1, the Clippers made mistakes in the final 3 minutes that cost them. Last night, Denver made it. So, yes, Kawhi Leonard's efficiency is a big reason, but the truth is they were an Aaron Gordon missed dunk away from winning. They were a Michael Porter turnover away from winning. They were Jokic making free throws away from winning. And you have to also consider the fact of, hey, that's just the margins in the series, and it probably is just going to come down to who executes at the end.
So everybody who's watching this on YouTube have already had the chance to see Nikola's answer to my question, like what was the cause of the loss late, and he mentioned many plays, his turnover, 4 missed free throws, many details from the game. Like we got to some shots, but we either didn't take them or didn't make them. What do you think, Nick, the Nuggets could do to clean up those things and be prepared for the game 3 better?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So Jokic has to be himself first of all for them to have a chance here. In fact, not only that. I mean, Jokic really has to be great in every game. I think if they're going to win. So yeah, things like 4 for 8 from the free throw line is not going to work. And missing 8 free throws as a team overall, not going to work. We talked about the 20 turnovers, 7 were Jokic, a couple big ones late in the game. A couple of those, I don't know, that last one, I'm not entirely sure if that was Jokic's fault. I think he still made a bad read, maybe doesn't make that last pass, but, I just think it's easy for me to sit here and say like, well, just clean that stuff up. But like, these are 2 really, really closely matched teams that are playing their guts out right now in these games. Somebody pointed out earlier today that after that game, and I noticed this after the last whistle, everybody was gassed, right? Everybody's hands are on their knees, and you have Jokic and Murray playing 42 minutes each, I believe, or right in there. If you're going to ask that much and then also ask for the kind of defensive performance that they need to play to be competitive in this series and to keep it tight the way it has been, I think it's going to be sloppy down the stretch unless we can get a little more time for Jokic to rest. Maybe something can be done there. I'm hoping that maybe they find a way to stagger some more time in the second half, especially. I think if we just get them a couple of minutes, maybe that might be really helpful. Clean up just a couple of those sloppy things. It's hard for me to say. I don't know if fatigue was really the main factor in what caused some of the sloppiness down the stretch. Game 1, that wasn't an issue. It was on the other side. The Clippers were the ones that were making some of those mistakes, and some of the 50-50 balls were going the other way. But I want to believe that it's in their control, but we have kind of had a tale of 2 games here where in one game, the Clippers were making the kind of bonehead errors, the kind of 50-50 balls were going there against them, and then we kind of had the reverse happen in the Nuggets game, and I think it's that close. I don't know. I just think we're on kind of we have a razor margin of error here.
I think Denver, though, has more ways for the floodgates to open, and I'm not saying they will. They might be limited skill-wise in their ability to do that. But Denver right now is a team that is 4 games into their season. Because their season changed with Adelman. There's a different process. There's a different thing, things going on. And the spacing, you mentioned the last 2 turnovers, both of them. I mean, you put them on Jokic because it's like a quarterback that throws a pick. You have to make the decision. But if there's nothing open, you kind of have to make a play. And I think his play in both of those instances was probably shoot a tough shot as opposed to try to make a pass that wasn't there. But the reason the pass isn't there is, in my opinion, is you don't have the chemistry, the requisite chemistry with the guys who are on the floor to space properly. And in both of those instances, it was horrible spacing. Not like bad. It was guys in the wrong spots and Yoke playing it as if they were going to be in the right spots and then finding himself in a compromised spot. So I say Denver has a chance to get the floodgates open. I don't know if they have the personnel to knock down enough shots to do this. But I do think they have the ability to just space properly And that would make Jokic's reads easier. It would make Dunn's defensive reads much harder. And when you get bad spacing, Dunn's gambling, or any of these guys, but mostly it's Chris Dunn, his gambling is now more compromised. Right now, that steal Kawhi had, he was able to guard two guys in one spot. You should never give him that opportunity. Denver just has to get a little bit better. So I do think that it's a new team. We're 4 games into this. Can you build the requisite chemistry to space properly in short order? I don't know. But if they can, I actually think Jokic's reads will be easy, and his ability to attack one-on-one would be a lot easier.
That is a great point, and I really like Nick's point about the teams being extremely close in this series, and we're going to talk a bit about that after these important messages. Okay, we are back. So I think we all agree that two teams are extremely close in quality. And Adam, in your mind, what are the key details that resulted in the series being a complete wash so far?
What are the key details?
Yeah.
Well, I think right now, Denver, series are so fun for this reason, is I don't think that what's going to happen in the final games of this are going to mirror the first parts. I think this was both teams testing the parameters. In the first one, James Harden, spread, pick and roll. He goes, Kawhi was silent. Kawhi had 12 points in the second quarter. I think he finished with 17. Yeah. He had a very quiet game, but it was James Harden. So
and
I think
7 turnovers, by the way.
And 7 turnovers. So now Denver, I think, goes, okay, we have to make a plan for Harden. We have to adjust over here. And then Kawhi Leonard goes off, and Denver has to now realize, okay, there's 2 guys. How do we accomplish both goals at the same time? On Denver's side of things, Westbrook was an injection of offensive rebounding, but obviously the spacing was off. And I thought Denver did a great job of adjusting on the fly, making their adjustments in game, including late. Like, they made adjustments from the end of the fourth quarter into overtime in game 1 that were very meaningful. And they did a good job of that. But now that the Clippers have seen that, where are the next pressure points that Denver can put on? So to me, these first 2 games are almost like in boxing, first 2 rounds. First guy goes in, he's like, I'm going to work the right hook. And then the guy goes to the corner and says, okay, he's doing the right hook, so I'm going to do this. And he gives him the counter. And it's like, now the cards are a little bit more on the table, and now the real fight begins. So to me, that's what it's about, is Denver's had to make some quick adjustments. The Clippers have gone one way than the other. And now both teams are like, okay, that's the challenge. Can we stop it? And can we put pressure points on their weakness?
Yeah, I'm thinking about you mentioned about the floodgates opening for the Nuggets. I think there's also the potential for that happening for the Clippers too. Norm Powell hasn't had a great game yet. He's certainly not up to his standards. I think he had a couple big shots at the end of game 2, but I think we're due for a Norm Powell game too, where he's going to have like 30.
He's not really, but he's not. They're not going to him. Like, some of this is like Michael Porter hasn't gone off, and it's like, yeah, well, he took 6 shots.
Yeah.
So I think that some of that with Norm Powell, I agree with you. He's capable of it, but the texture of the game was more Harden than Kawhi, and we'll see if Denver plugs that. Is it Norm Powell's the release? It's possible, but I don't think it's going to be all 3.
Yeah. I mean, maybe ultimately that does become like a real fulcrum point in the series, is sort of who can rely on these other guys to hit shots, and who doesn't. Maybe who clams up. Maybe we get a game where Jokic decides, I just have to do more of the work on my own, and then what happens? Can he do that? Can he take on the double teams? Can he hit the tough shots? Same thing with, I can see the Clippers easily falling into this too. Harden and Kawhi, 2 very ISO heavy players that very easily could just feel like they need to take over a game too. But it may come down to, who's willing to trust these corner shooters when the defense keeps bottling things up in the middle.
Well, this is my big point about Chris Dunn, and I've hammered this home on the earlier show I did, and I'll bring it up again. He took 1 shot in the fourth quarter. If your weakest link only had to take 1 shot, and by the way, it was a layup that got tipped by Aaron Gordon, he missed it, so he's 0 for 1. Think about all the shots Russell Westbrook's taking in the clutch right now. Christian Brown, the Clippers are successfully funneling the ball to Denver's last option, but Denver is not forcing anything to Dunn right now. And I think that's another adjustment here. When you talk about the others, it can't be Norman Powell. It obviously can't be Zubats on the roll. But why not try to say, like, a success in game 3 is likely? How many shots did Chris Dunn take in the clutch? Because if the answer is 4 or 5, you should feel good about it. If the answer is 0 or 1, they probably got what they wanted.
As you mentioned, Adam, the Clippers have had 2 different players be their best player in a game. First it was Harden, then it was Kawhi Leonard. The Nuggets obviously had the Joker as their best player in both of those games, but he needs more help, more star level help in order to balance with having two great offensive players on the other side. Can the Nuggets take this series without Jamal having a jump compared to what he had so far? By the way, he was good. He was just not elite.
Yeah, there's no chance. I mean, Denver's problem is that they have three guys you really trust. If there was circles of trust, three guys in the core center circle of trust, three more who are in the we hope we can trust you, but we'll definitely give you a chance. And then everybody else that you would play, from Peyton Watson, Jalen Pickett, Julian Strawther, Zeke, now anybody else you play there, there's zero trust. It's almost a complete leap of faith. That's not the case, I think, right now. But to your point, Jamal Murray, we know has it in him to put even more pressure on him. And counting on Christian to make shots or Russ to space better and all these things, those have to happen as well. Jamal Murray can help the spacing by being a guy that they overload on, that they are concerned about at a different level than they're concerned right now.
Nick, do you think there's another way for Nuggets to win this series without Jamal taking a huge leap?
I think there's going to have to be, because I don't know that we can really expect Murray to really go off in the way that we've seen in other playoff series before against this kind of perimeter defense. They can keep throwing bodies at him. They got Dunn all over him. They've got Kawhi up in his face. They're just rotating guys at him. They're causing him all sorts of problems. And I think he's handled it actually pretty well. I mean, I think I don't really have an issue with how Murray has played at all. So I think it's going to have to come from somewhere else. I mean, the guy that really stood out to me in game 2 was AG for being kind of a non-factor, really. After what I thought was a fantastic game 1, I thought he was
one of his best ever.
Fantastic in game 1, yeah. Game 2, I made a note watching it, and somewhere like toward the end of the third quarter, he got fouled on a attempted layup, I believe. And I made a note that said, "First time I've thought about AG in this game." Or something like that. I think he hit a 3 like very early on, maybe in the first couple of minutes. But other than that, yeah, he was just sort of a non-factor. He's playing Kawhi pretty tough in one-on-one defense. I mean, he wasn't playing like terrible, but like he has got to be an offensive force for them too. He's got to be all over the boards. He's got to be dunking. And then obviously that big missed dunk at the end of the game, a couple of minutes left, was just a backbreaker. Even at the time, it was like, you're not coming back from this kind of bad karma.
Yeah.
Missing a wide open dunk in that spot.
Have we ever seen him miss a dunk, by the way?
No.
Is that the first missed dunk I've ever seen Aaron
I
Gordon
don't
have?
recall it.
He doesn't. Some guys miss dunks, like even DeAndre misses a lot of dunks, and he's a great jumper. Aaron Gordon doesn't.
He barely missed any dunks in the dunk contest.
Right.
He's doing like somersaults and stuff.
Well, speaking of Peyton Watson, how do you feel about his game last night?
I felt fine about it, honestly. He played 14 minutes, and I thought his defense was good. But this is the challenge for Denver. Peyton Watson is not ready to space the court the way Denver works. And this is one of the differences between Jokic and a player like Kawhi or Harden. It's pretty easy to play with Kawhi or Harden because they don't need others to set the table. I'm going to ISO. Nobody has to do anything. It's all on me. And if you double me, the weakness is it dynamic behind that? I don't know. Probably not. With Jokic, you need other guys involved. It's a collaborative sort of style of play. And when you talk about Christian Brown's played a lot, that cut he had that allowed for is insane. And I think you've had 3 years and a lot of minutes and you still made that mistake. What does Peyton Watson do in that moment? Are we sure he spaces the court? So I think that with Peyton right now, the defense was good, and that might be enough because you need him to defend. Kawhi hit 2 shots on him that I just were like, man, that was so well defended. But you know what? I'll take it. I'll take that. But offensively, is he going to cut into the wrong space? Is that to lead to turnovers that go for fast breaks? Fast breaks are not something the Clippers are getting like at huge volume. And if that happens, I talk about there's no runs. Clippers don't shoot threes. They don't play fast. If you turn it over, they're going to start getting those things, and the game can open up if you're not buttoned up.
And Kawhi made those contested shots over Peyton because he was already in the rhythm. He made, as you mentioned, those 5 easy shots against Jamal. The Nuggets should probably double him early and just try to get the ball out of his hands or make his life as hard as they can.
He's not a great playmaker. So we saw that in game 1. You can disrupt him. You can cause some turnovers. He had, like you said, 7 turnovers in game 1. So
yeah. Adam, what did you think about the Clippers' adjustment on Aaron Gordon? He had a great game in game 1. Did you see something they did specifically for him to make him almost a non-factor?
To be honest with you, no, but it's possible that there was something in there I just missed. The thing with me with AG is he has been in and out of the lineup all year, not injured, in and out. And that's almost tougher because it's that calf strain. And we remember when he went out and it was going to be a while. And then he came back and it was like, is it bad? And one of the things they said was, well, it's good now, but it'll probably come back. When he showed up on the injury report, it's one of those reminders. There's so many like alarm bells about the Nuggets if you try to project them to win a title. And one of them is, can AG play 4 rounds at the intensity he's needed? And I thought last night there just was a couple plays that looked like classic AG, whether they were rebounds, putbacks, or anything, where he just didn't jump quite as high as he usually does. He wasn't physical or quick as he usually is. And then the missed dunk, I think, was just a freak thing. But it does make you wonder, are the engines firing about what they were? So I think it was more about his overall physical ability to punish the way he was in the first game. But, something else to digest in the tape, to be fair.
Let's finish up this segment with Michael Porter. He had a really bad game 1, but he bounced back in game 2, had 15 points. Was it 15 rebounds? Like he was really playing well until the very end of the game when he had that turnover and he fumbled the ball and it seems maybe even injured himself on that play. How did you feel about his game, Nick, last night?
It was good to see him bounce back. The 15 boards are big. He had a lot of offensive rebounds too. I want to say it was 6 or 7 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, 6. Yeah.
So that's where he's going to have to get a lot of his production is grabbing boards, the putback game, and then being ready to shoot when he has open shots. The play at the end though, the turnover. With what was it, like 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left, something.
Are you talking about the turnover at 39.4 seconds? It might have been even later than that.
Was that the one where he was on the ground?
Yeah.
Oh, it was that. Okay. Man, I was thinking it was early. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I sent you one a screen grab if you're able to pull it up, because I have there's some stuff with this turnover that I think is especially interesting if we dissect it. Are you able to pull it up? Yeah, he's going to download it because this is what I'm talking about Christian. If you look at the spacing. He's spinning into a double team right now that is Norman Powell, right? So there's a full-on help, and he's kicking out. And if you have Christian in the corner, which is where he started from, by the way, he was in the corner 0.5 seconds before this. They're standing on top of each other. Mm-hmm. And so Jokic, he can't make this play. He's got to kind of turn it into a shot. But he turns to spin thinking he has a read right now. Kawhi Leonard guarding 2 guys, one in the corner, one on the wing. And you kind of go into your pass and you find one of them. They're 2 in the exact same spot, and I have no idea why Christian Braun cut to right there at the last second. And this is what I mean about if you put other players in there, are they going to do this? Christian should know better, but for some reason, this happened, and Kawhi obviously just grabs it.
So do you want to say that play would look better with Bruce Brown and KCP?
To be fair, I would not have guessed Christian Braun made that mistake. I think he's over the hump to where I would expect that not to happen. So even for him, that was just an outlier. And sometimes even veteran players make weird ones. But that gives you a hint of Denver's margins are so thin because their spacing's not great to begin with. And then they made the spacing nonsensical.
Yeah, Joker's point was actually there was so many little things, so many little details, and they all went into Clippers side. So sometime it's going to happen. Who knows? Maybe the luck turns in game 3 and we see a really close game with everything going in Nuggets' favor.
Yeah, if you're looking for a silver lining, all of those 50-50 plays, these chance plays, they all went against the Nuggets in the final 2 minutes or whatever. You got a 15 for 19 game from Kawhi, and you had an off game from Jokic. And the Nuggets lost by 3.
Do you have the clip I just sent you, Kel? I just sent you another one because I want to just compare and contrast where you see when Jokic goes into his passing motion what the spacing was. Because I'm not trying to absolve Jokic, but he's in the passing motion. Like this is okay. There's the wing. We got a screen on Kawhi, but right as he passes it, Christian Braun runs to right in front of him, and obviously it becomes a steal. So. This is just an example of how tight the margins are and how everybody has to execute to make this spacing work. Because Westbrook, AG, Christian, all on the floor at the same time is no spacing. And by the way, the play right before this, the one you're talking about, I think at 2 minutes, it's the exact same spacing. Those 3 guys are all on the same side of the floor. And Chris Dunn made an incredible play. What he does is Jokic is in the same configuration. He's trying to hit AG on the drop-off. And Chris Dunn flashes in front of Jokic, so he thinks, okay, I'm going to go right, behind and do the drop-off. and he flashes and flashes back and just makes an incredible play on it. You know, that it's a bad turnover, but it's also a great defensive play.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Nuggets actually have 3 real guys, another 3 guys you might have questions about, and they're actually hitting some adversity after 2 games of the first series of these playoffs. But we are going to talk about that after these short messages. And we are back.
Oh man!
Would you look at that?
So refreshed.
So we got the report from Brandon last night that Jamal Murray seemed really ill last night, and it was a report only from him because I was confused which side of arena is which. So I managed to get to the media availability too late. I didn't hear Jamal talk at all. I can report that Nikola doesn't sound great. His cough is like really deep at the moment. I'm not happy about that. And Mike seems to maybe have gotten injured on a dive ball late in the game. How concerned are we with this kind of adversity? They don't have enough guys, and now we can talk ourselves into 3 of their main guys having some sorts of problems going forward after only 2 games of the playoffs. Let's start with Nick.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a theme here that the margin for error here is really slim. So if we're also now looking at illness, we got the calf strain, AG, maybe we got an MPJ shoulder or whatever. I'm not exactly sure what the issue might be there, elbow or shoulder or something, but that could be enough in a series like this that's this close to tilt it, going back to LA now also where they're going to be comfortable. And where you're already facing some hostility on the road. So yeah, but I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, if they're sick, and you gotta play through it. I'm not sure what else can be said. I guess I would say that Murray, like I said, I think played a better game 2 than game 1, and he was under the weather. It sounds like. So sometimes there is I think mentally, I don't know. Sometimes the sickness. We've seen that. I'm thinking of like the famous Jordan flu game or something like that, or which might have been a hangover game. I don't know, depending on which lore you believe.
You ordered a pizza.
Too much smoking.
Yeah, but I do think there's sometimes it can kind of help you to lock in or something. Where you're sort of like a wounded animal or something to that effect, and maybe you can run on adrenaline in a different kind of way when you're down and out. But I mean, obviously, we'd rather have him be healthy and not under the weather.
Yoke, he's had this voice thing going on for 2 weeks or something like that. 41, 15, and 13 happened when he was sick. 20, 12, and 11, 26, 16, and 13, 29, 9, and 12, 26, 9, and 10. By the way, only one of those games under 40% shooting or 50% shooting, every other one. So I look at it and I go, I don't think Yoke's sick. I think he's tired because they played him a lot of minutes. And that was part of the story, in my opinion, about the end of that is, we've seen Yoke overcome that and play 60 minutes, right? And be really effective. But last night, I do think fatigue was a major factor for him and Jamal. Jamal, new sickness that I suspect a pro athlete who's 26 years old is probably going to be fine by Thursday, so I'm not concerned. Mike's the big one because Mike, that could be a real injury. I was very critical, and I have been very critical about that play because I do think it was one of those ones where the turnover was egregious, and then the not getting up, no matter what the case was, like I still think, hey man, even if with something, just get up to stop the play, give a quick foul. Just
even if your shoulder's like hanging out of its socket, like get up.
And I have empathy for the fact that it likely hurt, but I just say like, man, in that moment, we've seen heroic efforts with guys who have hurt themselves just to save a play, and that did in fact cost them the game. So I'm going to be hard on him for that. But if he's hurt, the Nuggets don't have any shooters. Him and Jamal, outside of Yoke, him and Jamal might be the most the 2 players you can't go without. Not because they're the best, but because if they're out, who on earth do you use to space the floor? So the Mike one to me is really concerning. I mean, I'm already concerned about their depth with those guys. Without them, Julian Strother better be ready for 30 minutes.
So let's do a hypothetical, Nick. If Michael Porter is in fact not available for Game 3, how does the Nuggets rotation look like, and do they have any kind of chance of winning in a game like that?
I mean, if I'm betting like the mortgage. I'm not putting it on the Nuggets in that, in that scenario. I don't think. You're probably. I mean, at this point, I feel like I would trust Pickett more than Strother to get heavy minutes, but he's not. He's kind of out of position. It's not. You're going to deal with some funky rotation stuff if you kind of go that direction. So you're probably getting a lot of Watson, and you know I don't like P.Y. Like these are the kind of moments if he needs to step into the role. I mean, if he really, you know, if he wants a decent contract moving forward, if he wants to really show that he can be like a rotation player in this league for a long time, these are the kind of moments where he can maybe step up and take the bull by the horns. I mean, I think he's capable of it. It's the trust issue like you talked about before. Like, who knows? I mean, yeah, maybe he'll be ready for the moment, and maybe he won't.
Yeah. I mean, where do you go? Westbrook, probably, honestly. In all sincerity, you probably just go to Westbrook to start, and you run a Knicks-like rotation. I don't know if you guys have seen the Knicks in the playoffs, but they don't trust anybody more than 3 minutes. So they are basically just playing a starting five with no subs. And Denver might go to something similar. I will say, if you, in every configuration outside of that, you need shooting. So could you play a Pickett? He's so tiny. Denver would be a little more obvious what they're doing defensively because there's no way you're going to let Pickett get switched out onto Kawhi. He'll go 17 of 19 if they do that. But it does make it clear of like, we're just trapping every time he touches the ball. And that might be the best bet because I've long believed that Kawhi Leonard, for as great as he is, you just get the ball out of his hands. And if there's a weakness on the court, he's not great at setting the table for them. Like Jokic, you double him, he can set you up to where it's like you're now getting the A+ shot. Kawhi can't do that. Give Chris Dunn a bunch of B- touches where he has to make a play or he has to do something in short order, and you can make it work. I think the reason Denver doesn't do that or didn't do it in game 2 is because they didn't want to. A team will figure it out if you show them the same thing every time. They'll figure it out, and I think they're trying not to let them figure it out. They figured out the other way, so you might as well not hold your card. Just run it until they break through it. Maybe they never will.
No, I know you're not Ryan Blackburn, unfortunately, but you probably have to have at least our guy. You have to have at least 3 guys off the bench. How many minutes are they getting and who they are?
I mean, right now, if you're talking circle of trust off the bench, it's Russell Westbrook, Peyton Watson, and Jalen Pickett. If they extend that, I do not see how Julian Strawther can play in this series. And I mean, I get why you would want to go to it because you need shooting and maybe he just knocks down some shots. But we're talking about a defense that requires everyone being on the string against 2 of the greatest scorers the game's ever seen. He will be on them. And the team will be trying to trap. But it's not just as easy as like, don't worry, help is coming. There's rotations you have to make. There's box outs you have to make. Putting him in that moment, I think Denver can make this a slugfest. 105-102 is kind of the score right now between the 2 games. You can do that. If you start playing weak defenders who have been out for the last 2 months and now you're throwing them into this high-level execution, the Clippers get 115, 120 points. Can Denver keep up with that? I just don't have faith.
Is there a role for Zeke at all?
Zeke and Julian, to me, are 2 guys that, as good as Zeke can be defensively individually, I don't think he's the strongest schematically. And that's, I think, the fear is that you're going to put him out there and, he did a good job on Kawhi and we doubled. But he missed the rotation that's going to cover you. I mean, break glass in case of emergency. I don't think Denver's at an emergency now. But if you go down 2-1, you might be to where it's like, let's see what happens.
Try something.
Yeah.
You're gonna think I'm joking, but I'm really sincere here. So if Mike is not there, who would you prefer to get more minutes, Peyton or Pickett?
That's a tough one.
I'd probably take Peyton. Just I think he's going to hold up a lot better defensively.
Individually, he'll make more plays defensively. I think Pickett would execute the game plan without flaw, and it might be more of a game plan thing than an individual defensive skill thing. That's my hunch is if it is, we're just trapping Kawhi, but whoever's trapping, that means it's 3-on-4 behind it and we need everyone on a string. Pickett will do that part. If you're talking about we need somebody to kind of make shots that are difficult and cover the rim, weak side rim protection, Peyton's the right one. So it's tough. I'd probably lean Peyton. But I think that it would be a quick hook for either one when you put that out there because you can. I keep saying this. There have not been runs in this series yet outside of that first quarter. The moment there's a run, and by run I mean 15-5 run. There hasn't even been a 15-5 run either way. The moment that happens, it's like, man, now we have to have our own 15-5 run, which by the way hasn't come in this series. So it's tough.
So would the solution possibly be with Peyton is to have him be the guy creating the trap. So he is not one of those three guys that are supposed to play, 3-on-4.
I don't know if you can dictate that. And one of the things that I think the Ty Lue did that was really good in this game too was every time Kawhi was catching the ball, they ran what's called a Horns-Nash action, which is for Steve Nash. So Kawhi would receive the pass. He's one of the guys at the foul line, and he steps out and receives it. And then the ball handler who brought it up, sets a screen, and then Zubac sets the second screen. So it's a double screen to get the switch you want. But what they're doing is they're putting Norman Powell either in the corner or James Harden in the corner, and the other guy is at the top of the key. So you have nobody you can help off of one pass away. The only person you can help off is Chris Dunn, who's in the corner just standing there. And so you can't always dictate who is going to be the guy on ball. They'll just switch up the action, and now all of a sudden Peyton Watson's far away. What I think they have to do is exactly what they are doing to Denver. And Denver, by the way, was brilliant in game one and how they attacked this. Chris Dunn, he was guarding Russ, and he just said, I don't care where he is on the court. I'm just coming up to double. And we'll leave that skip pass. And you have Jokic, who's great at making that one, and it still flustered Denver a little bit. I think Denver has to treat Chris Dunn like he's Russell Westbrook and just say, you have to pass it to him. We're making the play end in his hands, and we'll see if he can make enough plays.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 7 to 10 three attempts by Chris Dunn. I think we're going to probably feel pretty good at the end of the game.
Especially if they all come at once, because there's something like Russ taking a bunch of threes sprinkled throughout the game. It's like, hey, you got to shoot when you're open. We know that. Russ taking 5 in a row in the fourth quarter is like, oh man, is this really what we're coming down to? And I think you have to make the Clippers make that call too. Chris Dunn, you need to either shoot or drive to the basket and make a contested layup 7 times in a row.
And another thing too is under this scenario, and even if MPJ is healthy, I think Jokic has to just take some tough shots too. He always wants to make the right basketball play, but sometimes the right basketball play is just your paint shot, even if you're double teamed, even if you're triple teamed, maybe in some cases. I mean, I think that's going to be preferable moving forward to just like 4 Russell Westbrook threes in a row or something like that. I mean, I think he's going to have to get a little more aggressive and make maybe what wouldn't be the ideal basketball play a little bit more and just try to dominate.
My theory why Joker hasn't been taking more bad shots so far is because Zubac is a really good defender, and Joker could not get in a good position for offensive rebound. Have that happen because Zubac positions himself amazingly. He's a really, really good defensive center. So that's like kind of my sense. Why haven't we seen already more bad shots from Joker?
The only thing I'll push back is Rudy Gobert's a really good defender. Anthony Davis is a really good defender. Yoke's been aggressive and he's been efficient against those guys. And Zubac's as good as he is, it's a different type of difficult, but I don't think it's a greater one.
Yeah, but he's so much stronger.
Yeah,
Joker cannot move him like he can move Gobert or AD.
But Jokic can still score on all types. And I agree Zubac is good. I'm not trying to diminish him. I'm just saying I think I'm with Nick. I do think that he's going to dial up the aggressiveness, and his efficiency might be just a little bit down. But I do think he's going to have to get there. But I also
more efficient than anything Russell Westbrook's going to do.
But I also think that there are better shots Denver can generate that he is, in my opinion, trying to set the table from. I think he knows. I think Jokic knows he can win a game that way. And he might be able to win 2, but he can't win 4. Yeah. And I think that he's we win game 1, good. Let's go back to let's see if we can do it. You lose game 2, and game 3 might be the one that calls for him to step outside of that box. We'll see.
Yeah, it sounds like we've learned a lot of stuff about this series, and we are going to talk about it after these important messages. Don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned.
Oh my God, we are back, and let's talk about what we have learned so far about the Nuggets as a whole, with David Adelman as their head coach, and about their best players so far being a part of that new system. Let's start with Nick. What do you think we've learned so far?
I think I've learned that the grit didn't come from Malone necessarily. I mean, I think he helped set that culture for sure. He gets a lot of credit for that. I'm not trying to take that away from him and the swagger, but they're a championship team now. I mean, and they've been battle tested in really tough defensive series throughout these guys' careers. So I think I've just been happy to see that. They came into the playoffs limping on horrendous defense. Didn't really look like they had a ton of fight left in them. And I think we're seeing, pretty much across the league, everybody is describing this as the best, like most intense series going right now, maybe other than Knicks Pistons, and that it really feels like a Western Conference Finals or a Finals series almost at this point with the level of intensity. So I've just been happy to see that. I've been happy to see the fight that they have, and it would have been, easy. I wouldn't have expected it, but you could imagine a team kind of packing things in this season a little bit. And I haven't seen any sign that that's been the case. So I think that's a credit to Adelman for one thing, for keeping this going, but also that this core of players they have are championship guys.
I still really like Adelman, and to be honest with you, I don't think a lot of last night was on him. I think he probably would have called a timeout when Jokic grabbed the offensive rebound. But I also understand his reasoning of, hey man, we call a timeout, we run a play. It's so hard to get a shot up before they foul you. You kind of have to catch the ball in rhythm to go up, or they're just going to foul you and you're not going to get anything out of it. So I understand a little bit. I think he's been really good. Jokic had a great line last night in his postgame where he said, I think if you're a fan of basketball, you really like the series because it's a high-level series. This is not necessarily on talent, because I do think there's teams that are as or more talented than these two teams out there. But on terms of like game planning, execution, the high-level play, this is more than a typical first-round series. And I think that's part of why Jokic's having the turnovers, is there's more to solve right now than your typical matchup at this point. And I think Adelman's a big part of that. What I like about him is he is I think he approaches coaching as, I need to give them a blueprint that is very clear, concise, and that they all understand. I think Malone felt more, I have to give them emotion and I have to do this, I have to drive this. And I think he's like, my job, this team knows if I tell them what to do and it's clear and they understand, it's up to them to execute. And I think they actually respond to that. Doesn't mean that they've executed perfectly, but I think that is his strength, is he's very clear. He knows what the right answers are. He's clear in getting the message to him. And then the players, it's just on them to be able to execute it.
Memphis Grizzlies have been ahead of Nuggets for most of the season. They've been like in 2 seed, a 3 seed. I had no idea why, because I almost haven't watched them. Like they played the Nuggets in some weird periods of season when I didn't thought of those teams as very important. And then they fired Taylor Jenkins and just turned into nothing. But the Nuggets fired Michael Malone and still stayed very competitive. Is it David Adelman that's the reason for that, or do you think there's something else about this team that kept it resilient as they were before?
Jokic probably is a pretty good reason. He's basically been coaching this team anyway on the floor a lot for the last couple of years anyway. So, because I do agree, like I think Malone was very much a vibe guy, and I don't know all the details behind the scenes of what kind of X's and O's he was involved in and stuff, but I get the sense that Malone was very much like he's kind of a tone setter or something. Yeah. Where Adelman does seem to be a guy who's down a little bit more in the details and the execution, and I think that probably connects with Jokic, because I think that's more of who Jokic is. He's not a guy who really plays on emotion the way that like Murray does, for example. And so since Jokic is the team leader, I think that probably is working pretty well. And Memphis is a younger team. They haven't proven anything yet. They don't have the kind of dominant superstar the way that Jokic is. So I think it makes sense that they're really struggling right now in a different way than the Nuggets are.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets were done with Malone emotionally and everything else the same way that the Grizzlies seem to be done with Taylor Jenkins. But the difference is, there might have been more of a reason for it in Denver's case as opposed to Memphis. I mean, I think Ja Morant did not like Taylor Jenkins and wanted him out, and maybe that was more coddling a star than it was, hey, this had run its course. Maybe not. I mean, who knows? We'll see what Taylor Jenkins and Mike Malone do in their next stops. But yeah, I think the team needed more strategy, I think, and they needed a little bit of freshness, and they're all playing. I don't want to absolve the Nuggets of this because it is a season. At the end of the day, you're kind of responsible for what you are, but the team is playing so much harder, better over these last few games than they were at any point, and it's almost frustrating, but at least you understand that it was an emotional note that had expired.
Let's break the fourth wall. Kel, what do you think we've learned the most from these 2 games about the new Nuggets with Dave Adelman?
About the new Nuggets, it's mostly just, I think the rotations being more free-flowing is my biggest takeaway. And I think that's a good thing. I think it should sort of go night to night, who's playing well, who closes. that type of thing. And I really enjoy that aspect because I think it's been fun to follow. And what I've learned most about this series is that these teams are incredibly close. It's probably going to go 7 or 6 games, and whoever can make those big plays in the last 2 minutes of games, like the last 2 games, that's going to be the case.
Can I address one thing that's in the comment here?
Yeah.
Because there is something, somebody said something up a little bit ahead that I believe in. It was about maybe CB should have been the one not on the floor or something like that. Or maybe that's what I heard. Yeah, he didn't let the best 5 finish. CB is not it. Adelman didn't let the best 5 finish. There might be something to this, and I love CB, but in this series, Adelman's kind of gone between, is it Russ or is it MPJ? The answer might be both, not Christian. And that's something that they haven't gone to yet that I thought they were going to go to and they didn't. And
It looked like it, yeah.
And that might be the play, and it has nothing really to do with CB's good or bad. It might be that he's not making a defensive impact. So what are you really losing if he's not on the floor? And if Russ is there, that's the defensive impact you need because he's going to fly around. He's going to get into the space. And now you need a shooter next to him so that he can. CB hit the shot in game 1.
Yeah.
But is he going to hit it as much as Michael Porter will hit that shot? It might be that Mike just has to play with Russ and Jamal.
I had the same thought in the rewatch today, and I kind of agree with what Russ said. You know, he's in there to FS up, right? And I think maybe this series needs that for the Nuggets. I think maybe they need this kind of just wild card in there who can just sort of make his presence felt.
Kale, can you put Flossis in timeout? He's got a couple homophobic comments.
Okay, that they took a sharp turn there. So we've seen 5 games of David Adelman's Nuggets. Nick, do you have a player you think changed his role or impact the most since Michael Malone left?
I don't know. I that's not something I've really picked up on, like a role, like a real change in their role. I mean, I think he seems more open to playing the guys who are playing well. Whether that means there's going to be feelings hurt. I mean, benching MPJ in game 1 obviously would be an obvious example of this, where I think he made the right call there. I mean, Russ was really making a difference in that game, and I think instead of going back to like, well, I got to play my like rotation guys because that's what we do or something, he was willing to just ride the hot hand, and he's made that clear, I think, pretty much since he took over, that's how he was going to approach this. So I think that's the right call for right now, and so I appreciate that change.
Is there somebody you think benefited? Is that the question?
Benefited or lost ground?
Well, I think Michael Porter would be the answer for lost ground. And again, I thought Michael Porter was really good last game. So this is not like, I almost feel bad because he really was at the center of the single worst play of the game. But outside of that, I thought he had a nice bounce back. But Adelman's a strategist. And I think the players who are best capable of being led by strategy are going to succeed. And Michael Porter's not been that. And if we go the other direction, who's benefiting? I think Jalen Pickett. If this were the regular season, it sounds like he's the 7th guy, maybe the 8th. And talk about a strategist, he's a guy that understands it. The fact that we're in the playoffs, he's not playing a ton of minutes, but we did a show a month ago about whether or not Jalen Pickett would play in the playoffs, and we all said no, because it seems so crazy that this guy would go from where he was to playoff rotation. He's played in both games so far, and I think that he is somebody Adelman probably looks at and says, I know your limitations, but if I say something, you get it, and you'll execute it.
Is there something different about Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic pick and roll game in these playoffs? You can say even in last year's playoffs compared to what they were before, because the Nuggets did not look as clutch as they used to back in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, something I've been noticing, I haven't looked, I need to check the numbers on this. It seems like Jokic is shooting more threes out of it, which would make sense because he's shooting better from 3 this year. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily a bad thing.
Less spacing too.
Yeah, right. So that seems to be maybe a little bit of a change. But yeah, I mean, it's still really effective. I mean, it's still probably the best 2-man game in the league. It's still their go-to, and it's kind of that like blanket too to go to at the end of the game where you know exactly what you're going to be able to get out of it pretty much every time. So Clippers have good enough defenders that they're going to be able to disrupt it a little bit more than maybe a weaker defensive team, but I think it's still their go-to.
Yeah. it's early in the playoffs, and I do think there's another level for them to get to. I just think the difference is that in years past they had KCP. I mean, we're talking about should they go to Russ? Should they go to CB? Should they go to Mike? KCP is kind of all of them in one, right? He's got the quickness around defensively as Russ, he can guard, and then he can shoot the three. And I just think that that's what we're dealing with is the Nuggets are not as hard to guard in the clutch as they were 2 years ago right now. Maybe they get there because guys step into roles and play a little bit better. But I just think it's harder on those two than it was 2 years ago based on the spacing that's available to them. And this Clippers team's good, man. Like this is not like this is the Damian Lillard Portland Trailblazers we're going to. Because if they were going up against that team right now, I'll bet you they'd look really clutch. I bet that 2-man game would look great. You're going up against a bunch of really good defenders, an incredibly smart coach, and you're doing it with less spacing.
Okay, game 3 prediction. Nick.
I think I'm going to take the Clippers in game 3. I think they're going to ride some momentum into it. I think the crowd's going to be super into it. I think the Nuggets are coming in.
Oh, they're going to be into it, though?
Oh,
well, not, you know,
Sorry.
I mean, not the.
that was so terrible.
Yeah.
They were going to be into it. My goodness.
Brother.
But when they come back, I think they're going to play some real ball.
I can't help it, sorry.
Serbians. Humor.
You're such an oracle.
Mares?
I think I'm with him. I think that they probably eke this one out in another very close game because I think Denver is a couple games away from getting their footing. I mean, I've told somebody this the other day, a friend, they were asking, like, are you buying the Nuggets after game 1? I said, I think they're 10 games away from escape velocity. They're 10 games away from being the team I think they would need to be a champ. That means they have to make it through the series, and they probably need a good or lucky start in the next one. But if they somehow get through this and through like a 2-2 split of the following one, if they got there, that will have brought them together. But right now they're still in the process of becoming when it's time to be. And so we'll see if that happens. I think game 3, they likely lose. I think game 4 is the game we're talking about with Jokic, the one where he goes, I just have to even the series, and he goes off. And hopefully that means, okay, 3-game series with 2 at home. Let's see what we can do.
Kale, bring me to single. So my official prediction is I'm not going to predict who's going to win. I think it's going to be a blowout in one of the 2 directions. I have no idea why I think that, because everything we've seen so far is literally just 2 equal teams. But I think something crazy is going to happen in game 3, and we are going to see a 15-point win by one of the 2 teams. So that's my...
It could be as simple, like Adelman had a great line going into this game. I think he did it on Sunday where he said, it was going into the game. It was the pregame commentary where he said, we're going to make some adjustments. Some of them might not work. And I think that might be game 3. So I like your prediction about it being less close because it is possible one of the teams goes, oh, we're going to do this. And it's like, nope, that did not work at all. And now that was a 10-0 run. And that's the game.
Yeah, I think I like that idea of this being like the experimentation game for the Nuggets, maybe, and just try some stuff.
Get a little weird.
Okay, Nick, would you like to plug in something before we leave?
Oh, no, just go Nuggets. I think, yeah.
Adam, would you tell people where they can find you?
In my studio? You come into my house?
Sorry, that was the last dad joke of the day. So that is all I've prepared for you, my dear listener. And please, with a cherry on top, take the word prepared very loosely. Be well, be safe, be kind to everybody. Call your mom. And until next week, Bruce Brown.
Idemo Nuggetsy.
We all silly like the mayor.